This is Ada, and this is not where her story starts. But I want you to see where it ends. Because when I tell you what happened to get her here, you might not believe it. But stay with me. The day Ada buried her daughter, she also buried the last thing she believed God owed her. No tears left, no prayers left, no fight left. Just a woman standing at a graveside asking one question: is this really my life? What you are about to hear is not a fairy tale. It is not a motivational speech. It is the true story of a woman who lost everything: her child, her marriage, her business, her mind, and somehow came back. Stay with me, because the part that will change your life is not the pain. It is what happened after the pain. Her name was Ada, and 3 years ago she had a life most people would have called blessed. A husband, a daughter named Grace, 5 years old, with her father's smile and her mother's laugh, a small catering business she had built from a pot, a gas cooker, and a dream. It was not a big life, but it was hers, and she was grateful for it. Ada grew up in Enugu, third of 5 children. Her mother sold akara at the roadside. Her father drove a danfo. They were not poor in spirit, but money was always thin. Ada learned early that if you wanted something in this life, you worked for it. At 28, she married Emeka, a quiet man who fixed generators and made her feel safe. At 30, she had Grace, and at 32, she started her catering business from their 1-bedroom flat in Lagos, cooking jollof rice and pepper soup for office parties and small events. By the time Grace was 4, Ada had 3 regular clients and a dream of opening a proper kitchen. She was not there yet, but she was moving. Then, Grace got sick. What started as a fever did not stop. The doctors called it bacterial meningitis. They caught it late. 21 days in that hospital. Ada slept in a plastic chair. She did not go home. She barely ate. Emeka came every evening after work, and they sat on opposite sides of the bed, not knowing what to say to each other. Ada whispered to Grace every night, "Mummy is here, baby. You hear me? Mummy is right here. You are not going anywhere." One morning, Grace opened her eyes and said, "Mummy, I can see something bright." On the 22nd day, Grace went to see what the bright thing was. She was 5 years old. Ada did not scream at the hospital. She did not cry. She just stood up, straightened her blouse, and walked out of the ward like a woman whose body was still moving, but whose soul had already left. I need to stop here for a second, because I know some of you listening to this are not just listening to a story right now. You are listening to your own life. Maybe it is not a child you lost. Maybe it is a marriage, a business, a dream, a version of yourself you will never get back. And maybe, like Ada, you have sat in a place so low that even prayer felt like a lie. Do not go anywhere, because what God was about to do in Ada's life, He does not reserve for special people. He does it for broken ones. Keep listening. After Grace died, the pattern began. First, the marriage. Emeka left 8 months later, not with a fight, not with a big moment. He just packed a bag one Saturday morning while Ada was at the market, and by the time she came home, the bag was gone. A note on the table said, "I cannot do this anymore." Then the business. Ada tried to keep working, but grief does something to a person's hands. She burned orders, missed deliveries, lost clients one by one. By the 2nd year after Grace died, Ada had nothing. No husband, no child, no business, no money. She moved back to her mother's house in Enugu, to the room she grew up in, the same room where she dreamed of everything she was going to become. She was 38 years old, and she had decided, quietly, without telling anyone, that this was simply what her life was. Broken. Finished. Over. Now, here's what nobody tells you about rock bottom. It's quiet there. Not loud like you expect. No dramatic music, no lightning bolt. Just a Tuesday morning, a woman sitting on a bed, and a Bible on the floor she hadn't opened in 2 years. What happened next, Ada herself says she cannot fully explain. But she says this: she didn't pick up the Bible because she believed again. She picked it up because she had run out of everything else to do. And sometimes that is exactly enough for God to begin. It was a Tuesday. Ada had been in her mother's house for 7 months. She hadn't gone to church, she hadn't prayed, not really, since Grace died. That morning, her mother knocked on the door and said there was a woman from a church nearby who had come to visit. Ada didn't want to see her, but she was too tired to say no. The woman's name was Sister Ngozi. She didn't quote scripture at Ada. She didn't tell her God had a plan. She just sat down, made tea, and said, "I lost my son too, 12 years ago, and I know what it feels like when God goes quiet." Ada looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in 2 years, she cried. Not the polite crying she had done at the funeral, the real kind, the kind that comes from somewhere beneath the floor of who she thought she was. Sister Ngozi didn't try to stop her. She just put her hand on Ada's hand and waited. Ada told me later that moment in that room was not the moment everything got better. She wants me to make sure you hear that. It didn't all suddenly become okay, but something shifted, like a window opening in a room that had been sealed too long. Just a crack, just enough air to breathe. And from that one crack, watch what God did next. Ada started going to church, not because she felt like it, because Sister Ngozi came to her mother's door every Sunday morning and simply waited. The first 3 Sundays, Ada sat in the back with her arms crossed, not singing, just watching. But the 4th Sunday, the pastor said something that cracked Ada open again. He said, "Whatever the devil recycled in your life, whatever pattern has repeated, it's not because God forgot you. It's because you have not yet discovered that the cycle was already broken before you were born. At the cross, it is finished. What you are fighting has already lost. You just have to stop agreeing with it." Ada said she sat very still when she heard that, because for 2 years, she had agreed. She had agreed that her life was finished. She had agreed that God was silent. She had agreed that this was simply her portion. And that morning, she stopped. She went home, picked up the dusty Bible from the floor, turned Grace's photo face up on the bedside table, looked at her daughter's face, and said out loud for the first time in 2 years, "It will not happen again." 1 year later, Ada had restarted her catering business, this time from her mother's kitchen. Small, just like the first time, 1 pot, 1 gas cooker. But this time, she also had something she didn't have before. She had stopped trying to outrun her story. She told it instead. She cooked food for events, and when clients asked her why her food tasted like it carried something extra, she told them. She told them about Grace, about Emeka, about the room, about the Bible on the floor, about Sister Ngozi and the tea. And something remarkable happened. People didn't feel sorry for her. They felt seen by her. Because Ada's story wasn't really Ada's story. It was theirs. The woman who miscarried 3 times and told no one, the man whose business failed and who had not told his wife, the young girl who had been told she would never amount to anything. Ada's story became a mirror, and the mirror said one thing to everyone who looked into it: you are not finished. The cycle is broken. It will not happen again. Ada runs her catering business today. She employs 4 women, 2 of whom she met at the lowest points of their own lives. She named the business Grace Catering, not as a wound, as a promise. She still has hard days. She still misses Grace every single morning before she gets out of bed. She's not pretending the pain didn't happen. She's just refusing to let the pain write the rest of her story. I did not get my daughter back. I want you to know that. God did not undo what happened, but He rebuilt what was left of me, piece by piece, season by season. Whatever broke you, it doesn't get the final word. That belongs to God, and He says, it will not happen again. If Ada's story touched something in you today, share it with one person who needs to hear it.